So students, we have started a new topic, that is the unit of life. Chapter's name is Unit of Life, in which we are going to discuss about cell. So when we talk about cell, we will be studying about cell theory, the history of discovery of cell, the different shapes and sizes of cell, and also types of cell, prokaryote and eukaryote. And both prokaryote and eukaryote we will take up in more detail. So this is chapter number 8. Now, as far as the history is concerned, it was Robert Hooke who discovered cell for the first time in the form of cork cells. And these were actually dead cells. After that, Anton van Leeuwenhoek first discovered the living cell in a drop of water. Then later on, many scientists studied about the cells, and it was in 1839 when Theodor Schwann, who was a British zoologist, and Schleiden, a German botanist, both of them independently in their own laboratories, they studied in detail about the plant cell and the animal cell, and they combined their findings. The combined report was called as cell theory. And the scientists who work on that, this pair's name was Schley. Sorry. So let me correct the spelling. Schleiden, who was the botanist, and Theodor Schwann, Schleiden and Schwann, who was the zoologist. So their combined report says that the organisms are composed of different types of cell. So let me rub this and let me write different points of cell theory. The various points that were included in the cell theory. The first point says that organisms are composed of different types of cells and their products. So that means every organism is made of cells only. There is nothing else but cells in their body and the products that the cells have prepared. Then the second point is each cell is made up of, each cell has protoplasm with a nucleus in it, and surrounded by plasma membrane. Another point is new cells. So new cells arise from pre-existing cells. And then all cells are basically alike. So the basic design of all cells are alike in their chemistry and physiology. Then there is one more point, that the activities of an organism activities of an organism are the sum total of activities and interactions of cells. So whatever activity is performed by the cells, those activities will be reflected in the whole organism. Now, this was the cell theory which was later modified. It was modified by another scientist called as Rudolf Virchow. And this Rudolf Virchow actually added this new point, that is, new cell arises from pre-existing cell. So the initially when Schleiden and Schwann they composed this cell theory, this point was missing. But later on, after Rudolf Virchow had completed his studies, he included new this new point in that. This is actually in his word, in Rudolf Virchow's word, he said omnis cellulae cellula. So he said omnis cellulae cellula. That means cells divide and arise from pre-existing cells. So now let us talk about some exception to this cell theory. So the exceptions to this cell theory are viruses, because viruses are not kept under the living kingdom. So they are like intermediate between living and non-living organism. Also, they do not have any structure, any cellular structure. That's why they will be kept away from this cell theory. The viruses do not have nucleus, they do not have other cell organelles, they do not have a proper protoplasm. That's why. Then certain cells like RBC cells or sieve tube cells, they do not have a nucleus. So they can also be excluded from this cell theory. Then even some of the dead cells of the skin and cork, dead cell of skin and cork, they in them the protoplasm is replaced by non-living material. That's why they can also be not included under the cell theory. Other than that, prions, the infective proteins, then viroids, they are also exceptions to this cell theory. Now, talking about the shape and size of cell, we know that in an organism in a multicellular organism, the shape and size of the cell can be varied. The blood cell, it looks totally different from the nerve cell or from the bone cells. Even the size of the cell, it can be very small, tiny, as in mycoplasma, the smallest cell, and it can be as large as an ostrich egg, which is the largest egg or the largest cell. So shape and size are also varied. Now let us talk about the types of cell. So based on the type of nucleus, there will be prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. So in the next video, we will be discussing in detail about the prokaryotic, and in another video we will talk about the eukaryotic cells.